Do you remember this movie called Flushed Away? Well, I remembered its existence while scrolling on Amazon Prime Video recently and it caught my attention. The last time I watched this movie was when I was a child and I recently watched it again and I need to talk about it. Hi everyone, I hope y'all are doing fine. In today's video, I am going to review a forgotten movie called Flushed Away. If you want to support this channel, don't forget to leave a like or dislike if you want. Subscribe if you want more content like this, and let's start this video. Also, spoilers alert for the rest of the video. Before talking about the movie itself, let's have a little look at who made this movie possible. First of all, this movie was mainly produced by DreamWorks Animation, who you guys all know about, I'm sure of it. It was also co-produced by Aardman Features, who you may also know for movies like Chicken Run or Wallace and Gromit. They are mostly recognizable because of their movie's unique look, using stop motion and clay animation techniques. Flushed Away was released in the US on November 3rd, 2006. It had a budget of $149 million and accumulated $178.3 million in the box office. Pretty disappointing if you're asking me. This movie was directed by David Bowers and Sam Fell. Flushed Away was David Bowers' first movie as a director according to IMDb. The following movies he directed were some of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies and the Astrobot movie. Sam Fell, on the other hand, had some experience as a director before Flushed Away, and I'm sorry to admit that I haven't watched any of his previous projects, so I can't give my opinion on if this movie was in good hands or not. His only other movie that I have watched is Paranorman, which was released 6 years after Flushed Away. To be honest, I don't think this movie was in the hands of some masterpiece creators. It was in the hands of two average directors in my opinion. This movie was also written by a couple of people, but I will not go into much detail because this video would become too long. So, here are on screen the names of the people who worked on the movie as writers. If you recognize any of these names, congratulations to you. That means I'm an uneducated failure. Flushed Away stars Hugh Jackman as Roddy, Kate Winslet as Rita, Ian McKellen as the Toad, and many more. The casting is good, not gonna lie, but that doesn't mean that a movie is automatically good, you know? To find out if it's good or not, we have to watch these movies by ourselves and we have to make our own opinions on it, which is what I did, and let me talk to you about it. Let's start this review by mentioning what I liked during my watch time of Flushed Away. The first thing that I liked about this movie is its beginning. It starts with a fun compilation of activities Roddy does when he's home alone while the credit goes on, which is also a fun way to introduce the audience to the people who worked on the movie and to the actors who stars in it. The compilation also goes on while the song Dancing With Myself by Billy Idol plays in the background, which also puts the audience in a great mood to start the movie.
Music, maestro. Let's look at the stats. I've got the facts. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
The pacing is also pretty fast during the beginning of the movie, so we pretty much jump right into the action of the movie, you know? Another thing that I liked about this movie is the concept of Ratropolis. Ratropolis is a smaller version of London,
British,
but in its sewers, and it's populated by rats. I love how this city was built with materials thrown away by humans and how its society resembles ours because it's kind of a satire of ours. That way, we can relate easily to the inhabitants of Ratropolis and we can understand more easily how this city works. It's a pretty fun and unique concept if you're asking me. Another thing that I liked about this movie is how they approach the problem of loneliness. To me, it's pretty much the main theme of the movie, and I like it. We can all relate to loneliness on some degree, so the theme of the movie pretty much touches all of us. The focus of the story is mainly on Roddy, who is a lonely rat that lives in a rich human family. When he got flushed away, he discovered a world full of rats, and he made a new friend, Rita. When the events of the movie took place, Roddy lived an adventure with a real person, not with dolls like in the beginning of the movie.
We win, team! We win!
So So this adventure made him question his place in the world, and he ended up wanting to live a life on Rita's side and leave all this loneliness behind. I think we can all pretty much understand Roddy's decision at the end, and I think this movie's intentions are pretty good. Do they represent loneliness through Roddy in a great way? In my opinion, no. But at the end of the day, you can easily understand the intentions behind the creator's ideas. Finally, the last thing that I liked about this movie is its soundtrack. Just look at the songs credited in the movie. There are some really good bangers right there. I believe they did not disappoint with the soundtrack of this movie. Now that I have mentioned everything that I liked during my watch time of Flashed Away, let's talk about what I found okay during my watch time. The first things that I found okay during my watch time of Flashed Away are the pop culture references. During the whole movie, there are so many popular pop culture references, and why I don't necessarily like them is because they don't really impact the movie in a great way. They just feel too random and forced into the movie. For example, that one Batman reference.
Bingo! Scrabble. Enough games, to the Ratmobiles!
It just doesn't feel right in my opinion, you know? I like when people make references that actually have a real purpose in the story. Like in Toy Story 2, when Zurg reveals to Buzz that he is his father. The same way that Darth Vader revealed to Luke Skywalker that he is also his father. Those are references that actually impacts the movie without feeling out of place. And I believe Flashed Away failed at making these references feel not out of place. Another thing that I found okay about this movie is the cinematography. It just looks really normal. Nothing in the visuals of this movie impresses me, to be honest. The clay animation is really cool and fascinating, but the frame and the lighting just don't look incredible to me. Even the colors don't impress me that much. If you're looking for a visual masterpiece, this is not a great movie for you. I can suggest you to go watch Coco though. I've made a review of this movie recently, so go check it out if you're curious about it. Another thing that I found okay about this movie is Roddy's character. I find him hard to follow sometimes. He makes some selfish decisions sometimes to save his ass, but at the same time, he wants the help of the others. To me, that's a little weird, but his character became more friendly towards others during the events of the movie, and at some point, he wanted to help others instead of living a lonely life. The way his character developed during the movie is still unclear to me, and I don't believe he deserves a deep dive into his character motives, to be honest. He's just a cheap version of Woody from Toy Story. His clumsy personality also annoyed me during the movie. Another thing that I found okay about this movie is the inclusion of musicals. I previously mentioned that I liked the soundtrack of the movie, but I will not say the same for the musical parts of the movie where those lava sang. Just like those random pop culture references, these larvae felt out of place sometimes. They were used for comedic purposes, and in my opinion, they were just too random, honestly. And in a bad way.
Huh?
Oh, hell no! Shut the f*** up!
I'll talk more about this movie's humor later in this review, but when it comes to the musicals, they were just appearing randomly as if there were some kind of FNAF jumps. And the movie isn't a musical, technically, so it makes these moments so much more out of place and too random for me, you know? Another thing that I found okay about this movie is how cartoonish it is. This movie's humor is clearly inspired by cartoons. The humor used in this movie makes some things too unrealistic for me, let's say. I know that this movie is supposed to be goofy as hell, but there were some moments where I questioned the realism of it. When I say realism, I don't mean to talk about how a city full of rats can exist. I mean realism, as in some aspects don't make sense in this world introduced to us.
What the f*** does that mean?
For example, there was a moment where Roddy got his hands burnt and didn't act like this was happening. He activated the light work no reaction mode, you know?
There's one person round here
Light work, no reaction.
I find some stuff like this too cartoonish in my opinion, because it takes away the realism of the movie. Normally, if this happened to you, you should have withdrawn your hands quickly, not let them burn. That's common sense. They could have used more realistic type of humor and it would have worked just as much without withdrawing the realism aspect of the movie. Maybe I'm just yapping too much here, but at the end of the day, that's what I think. Finally, the last thing that I found okay about this movie is the story. The story of this movie is clearly not incredible. It's pretty much a mix of basic elements required to make a story for a long-length movie. Nothing felt unique or original if you ask me. It was quite repetitive actually. They combined two storylines in one full story. Roddy wanting to get back to his home and the Toad wanting to flood Retropolis. These two stories don't fit really well together, to be honest. I feel like they were just there to make the movie longer. Overall, the story wasn't really interesting and I feel like the creators stretched it as much as they could so it could fit in 1 hour and 30 minutes. And so, I believe that the events of the movie felt too long and too repetitive. Now that I have mentioned everything that I found okay during my watch time of Flashed Away, let's talk about what I disliked during my watch time. The first thing that I disliked about this movie is the humor. The humor is so bad and repetitive. I honestly rarely smirked just a little bit. They stretched some of the jokes for too long and I hate it. Sometimes they even say the same joke 3 times in a row and it becomes annoying.
It's a fake.
No, it's blooming not! It's real!
No, look. It's just glass.
It's real.
Fake.
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 Real.
Stop.
Real.
Fake.
Real.
Fake.
Real.
Fake.
Real. Real.
These kinds of jokes don't land quite well after the 3rd time, you know? The target audience was obviously children, but I, myself, can laugh sometimes at children's jokes, but this movie barely made me laugh. Another thing that I dislike about this movie is the hypersexualization of Rita. The humor of this movie treated her character so wrong sometimes, focusing on her body or her clothes, and especially on her butt. She was introduced as a courageous and strong character, which I liked. But as the movie goes on, she just becomes a victim of sexual references from time to time. I get that in 2006, humor was at a different place. Literally.
There's a paperclip in my back pocket. See if you can get it. In the pocket, in the pocket.
But my modern brain doesn't really like these jokes made around her. Also, her romance with Roddy is kind of weird too. They started on the wrong foot, and it's pretty weird to me the way she pardoned him after all the trouble he caused her. I kind of want to say that the romantical aspect of this movie was kind of unnecessary, but I would also be wrong of saying that, I think, because it's the reason why Roddy is attached to Rita and wants to follow her. Because it's the reason why Roddy is attached to Rita and wants to follow her through her journey. But at the same time, it could have worked just as a friendship. Anyways, that's just my opinion. Another thing that I disliked about this movie is how dumb all the characters are. The only bright characters in this movie are Rita and her parents, to be honest. Pretty much all the characters are dumb, and the ones that are supposed to be menacing to the story don't look menacing at all.
Any last requests?
Could you fly quite suddenly off the boat screaming like a girl?
What?
Weedy and Spike, for example, are just straight up ridiculous and act dumb when they're supposed to be threatening. Talking about characters, another point that I want to mention about the characters of this movie is that some of them are literally just useless and are on screen just to look menacing without being a menace at all. Like the Frog Army, for example.
You fools, grab them!
Sid had no other impact on the story than flushing Roddy away. The characters are on screen for one small purpose and that's it. The rest of the time, they are just background characters. I feel like some of them could have had a better use to the story, but whatever, man. It is what it is. Now, with all that said, here is my overall review of Flashed Away. Flashed Away is an attempt at making a funny and entertaining adventure through London's sewers. Sadly, they failed at making this movie funny and and entertaining because of the large amount of dumb characters and because of the repetitive type of humor. The story has some good intentions sometimes, but it also feels too long and it lacks greatly produced action sequences. The story itself is pretty basic, with an original but nasty concept. The animation looks pretty great and the clay animation technique used is impressive for a movie that was made in 2006. And so, with all that said, I give this movie a 5.5 out of 10. Thank you for watching this video. What do you think of Flashed Away? Leave a comment down below telling me your opinions on the movie. Leave a like or dislike if you want. Subscribe if you want more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!